All right, everyone. If there's one thing that sort of grinds my gears with regards to the pro-gun, anti-gun debate, it's the fact that the U.S. government keeps sending arms to other countries, heavy weapons, APCs, tanks, rockets, missiles, bombs, and everything else under the sun. Hell, we sent cluster munitions to Ukraine. You remember that a few months ago? Meanwhile, domestically, not really a priority for the American public to be armed, which is strange. You'd think that your government would primarily be focused on making sure that your domestic homeland was well armed so that you don't have so many military expenditures and nobody's going to invade the United States. I suppose if they wanted to invade California right now, they'd be better off than if they tried to invade most other parts of the country. Try to mess with Texas. See how fucking far you get. 10 yards in and half of your men are dead. It's probably what would happen, actually, considering the Texan mindset on firearms. Try invading New Hampshire. Land on Hampton Beach with the Chinese Navy lands there and they get cut to pieces and 100 million people die. It pisses me off because the U.S. government is constantly saying that here, people like myself should have less firearms. The state governments often argue the same thing. Local municipalities pass a bunch of ordinances with regards to the noise that guns make, or public safety, or something like that. Meanwhile, we're sending stack after stack of machine guns to the Israelis and to the Ukrainians at the moment. Again, including like anti-SHIB missiles and shit like that. Where can I get one? Am I going to be able to buy at least like an RPG or something like that at some point? Can I get a Browning? Even some 100-year-old machine gun. Hell, give me a good old Gatling gun. That'll be fun enough. But no, it appears to be on the chopping block. I think that the U.S. government shouldn't be able to do arms sales at all until the public is actually properly armed. Right now, our militia is not properly regulated. Our militia is ill-equipped. Most of the firearms at the militia in the United States currently comprise revolvers and bolt actions and things like that. Yeah, there are a lot of semi-auto weapons, but there are a lot of regulations at the state level that go with them. You're not allowed to have a standard capacity magazine. You're only allowed to have magazine junior that holds 10 shots. In Vermont, that is actually the law. Like, for example, and this gets into the minutia of how dumb gun laws are. In the state of Vermont, let's say I have an AR-15 rifle variant, and I have an AR-15 style pistol, so a tactical pistol. I can get 15-round magazines and put them in the pistol, and it's perfectly legal. If I put it into the rifle, all of a sudden I'm committing a felony under Vermont state law. It makes absolutely no goddamn sense at all, and some states have gone further. In a couple of states, they've restricted it to 10 shots in the locker, clear across the board, even for handguns. Well, some of them, you're going to have to literally modify the magazine in order to actually have it fit into the weapon because normally they carry 15. 15 plus 1, technically. You chamber one and then you pop another. I never really understood exactly why you would do that unless you're in a combat situation or something like that, but some people prefer that extra shot. I don't know. I'll just leave it unchambered for safety purposes myself. And weapons for foreigners, we've been doing this for a while, by the way. Gun control seeps in after the Cruikshank decision in the 1870s. That's the first gun control that the United States ever had outside of territorial law, which is entirely separate. It's not covered under the 10th Amendment, so it's a different animal. We have no anti-gunnery at all for the first roughly 80 years of the nation's existence. It does not exist. We have numerous court decisions, though, that say, well, there is a historical tradition. The founders would have agreed with regulating interesting, unique, or modern firearms. But they never did. It literally never happened. The Massachusetts decision that we had only a few days ago was one of the most abominable decisions that I've ever seen come out of a court docket because it cites no case law. It simply states an opinion that there is a tradition of the government regulating abnormal or particularly powerful weapons, but it never actually gives an example of that happening. Because there's no example in the first 100 years, roughly, of the country's existence. Even after Cruikshank, people owned cannons, people owned Gatling guns, people owned, later on, they owned machine guns. They could get them through the mail. You could literally order a Tommy gun in the mail in the Bonnie and Clyde period, prior to the modern incarnation of the NFA and things like that. So where's the historical precedent? None is actually given. And there's a reason for that, because there is none. There's nothing to actually cite. I hope that the Supreme Court, in this chaos year of 2024, which is what I imagine that it will be, I'm hoping that the Supreme Court rules yet again, reiterates the Bruen decision, and comes out and says, no, all of this anti-gunnery is bullshit. That's not what we meant. You can't make up a precedent out of literally thin air, claim that it exists, and not even cite any case law. Please give actual examples of the anti-gunnery that you are basing your decision on, because Bruen was fairly clear. The idea is that it applies a litmus test to challenges to the Second Amendment supremacy. And it says, look, you need to establish a historical tradition with regards to what you're attempting to foment. It will all fall short. There is no precedent. None of it exists. Prior to the last century, there is nothing. Prior to Cruikshank, there's less than nothing. Literally nothing. None of the founders were even alive at that point. The last founder, I think, was it Hamilton? I think 1828, if I remember correctly, he died. Well, there was no gun control. There was no anti-gunnery whatsoever. The concept of the militia was the body of people at large who were lawfully assembled, capable of bearing arms. So, and we've lowered the voting age to 18. That was in the 1970s. So everyone who is at least 18 years old, a lawful citizen, they're not currently incarcerated or a lunatic, that comprises the militia. It's the vast bulk of people within the country. Unfortunately, we've rendered the militia unregulated. We've deregulated the militia. To be properly regulated implies that they have proper weapons, ammunition, and so forth, the proper ability to fight back against any foe. That's your domestic defense. We don't need domestic military. Our military should only be used for defending allies and stuff like that. We don't even need a stateside military, although I'd like to keep them here and out of harm's way. I wish that everyone that joined the military, they got good training and they got to eat MREs and march around on the field. And that's it. Maybe they get sent to a jungle for jungle warfare training or something like that, because it's fucking cool. You learn how to, know which water you should drink from this leaf, without eating all of the spider babies inside of it or something like that. That's basically my idea. I think that the military should be beefy and used very sparingly. I think the militia should be even more beefy. Yeah, damn right. If I could own the machine gun, I would absolutely get one right now. Of course, you can buy one if you can find someone willing to sell and then drop 20 or 30 grand on it. Not on my priority list at this particular time. I'd rather get a fucking Gatling crank for an AR or something like that. By the way, I don't know whether belt-fed weapons fall under Vermont state law. I'm probably going to have to talk to somebody about that, because, if you can get it belt-fed, and you can, technically speaking, have a fucking Gatling gun to cut down trees with, why not? It sounds like fun to me. Weapons for foreigners, but not for Americans. That's Biden's ethos in a nutshell. Oh yeah, random Israelis, Ukrainians, Guianans, and so forth, they can be trusted with machine guns and rockets. But you shouldn't be able to have more than 10 shots in your locker if it's a rifle variant, because that's scary. It looks scary. Well, yeah, I'm sure that it scares corrupt politicians. That's kind of the whole point. That's about all. Peace out.